Welcome back, listeners, to Learning from Friends. My name is Kay Curtis, your tour guide on this lovely adventure that we get to spin each other every 2 weeks just to kind of share life stories, life events, things that are kind of taking place around us. At this point, whenever you're hearing this episode, I will just be getting back from the UK. I'm going over and doing an experience at a Buddhist meditation center for 3 weeks. And so that'll be just kind of something fun. I'll maybe do an episode myself about it, just kind of explain that joy and experience. But you're hearing this coming from recording on June 11th, and this will be to you probably towards the end of July, if not the beginning of August. So as you all know, for those listeners that have been with me for 50 plus episodes now, before we get into everything, we do my mom's quote of the day. So Mom, take it away.
A satisfied life is better than a successful life because our success is measured by others, but our satisfaction is measured by our own soul, mind, and heart.
Thank you, Mom. You provide such a great tone of starting an episode because we sit back and we pick these quotes that you kind of send, and I feel the vibe of the podcast and we add it in. It just it lays the foundation. So thank you, Mom, for always doing that. So introducing the little topic today, there are so many different people that we see throughout our lives, and you never know that kind of connection that comes in. And this is the mother of one of my really good friends that I met in middle school. We got disconnected a little bit in high school, and then we moved back, and he started, and we connected back in. We had Spanish together. We had other classes that we kind of connected back, and it was fun for me just to kind of have that. And every time that I go over and visit, music is everywhere inside their house. And I love it, ranging from all different genres to different like concert tickets. And she always has an amazing story of, oh yeah, well, I just got back from such and such concert over in like Los Angeles. And you're like, wait, you just traveled and got back here? Or, hey, I'm going to go see this band next week. And I've been to 2 concerts with her that we've kind of ran into each other. Not actually, we went to one together, and the other one I kind of ran into you there at. And so I associate music with this individual heavily. So Tammy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So if 99% of the audience is going to have no clue who Tammy is, can you give us like a short or long, however you feel like, Wikipedia summary of who is Tammy?
Oh, wow. Okay. Who is Tammy? Born and raised Georgia Peach, animal lover, music lover, single, tattooed, fun girl. How about that?
That works 100% for it. That does. You have your 2 dogs. I have 2 cats.
Yes.
And we love our animals, and that just kind of takes a great experience for us.
Always.
Now, how do we know each other?
Well, as you opened it up and said, you and Dak are good friends. But the first time I ever remember laying eyes on you was when we all lived in Canton. And we used to go eat at this little pizza joint. And Dak saw you and you guys started talking. And when he came back to the table, I was like, who is that cute kid that looks like John Lennon? And he was like, that's my good friend Kate. And then so that's how you've always been to me.
And I've always kind of had that long hair back and forth. That's kind
and
of
wear your
popped.
cute little round glasses like you have on now.
It does fit the John Lennon kind of look this time around.
And then you were always just cool. And I think you had on 2 different colored shoes or something as well. And I was like, okay, I like this kid. You were a kid. You're obviously a grown man now, but you were a kid then. And Dak was like, yeah, Cade's great. He beats to his own drum. Don't always say that to you. You always go to your own, whatever that saying is, but you follow your own beat to your own drum.
That's what makes life interesting too. And having people that kind of support that and carry in goes a long way. Like, oh yeah, just you do you. I was going to do me anyway. But it's nice to have someone that accepts you for it.
Exactly.
You know? And that's always been a nice thing. And whenever you say adult, I don't know, I'm not an adult. You're not an adult. You're as old as you want to be. To me, you're like a 16-year-old girl that's just like ready to hit the road running. That's the way I kind of like see you.
Way.
As you should feel that way, because you show that. That's the vibe you give off.
I mean, I just had my 54th birthday, and I remember being a teenager and thinking that aunts and uncles that were in their 50s were old. And how stupid was I? They weren't. They were smart and seasoned and all this. And now I'm that 54-year-old, and I hope no one's looking at me going, who's that old lady?
And you have so much wealth and knowledge to share. That's the cool thing about it from the experiences. And that's one thing I'm looking forward to hearing about the music evolution. Because as we were talking about earlier is music taste changes and music stuff. And whenever you go see a concert or you listen to an album as a band evolves, you're like, I remember this band whenever they came out 20 years ago, and I miss this album sound, but I respect that they've evolved, and you do a really good job of sticking with a band for the most part, even as they evolve out, because you respect as an artist. You respect them as an artist, and I've always respected that.
That's, I like that, but it's also like there's certain albums and they get in your heart. So it's like you can't turn your back on them even if these artists move on and change and maybe you don't like that album or that sound as well. It's like it still takes me back to what I did fall in love with them with, and I can't let go, Unless they hurt an animal, then I can cut them off like nobody's business. That's about the only thing someone can do where I will totally cut you off.
You have to have that line in the sand. You really do.
Right.
So let's dive into, I want some music background here to share with people. This is also part of your story so let's jump in here. Okay. If you had to pick 5 favorite like singers or bands or musical groups, what would be your top 5 today?
Today, right now, it would be Foo Fighters, Pearl Jam, Miles Kennedy, and that can include his Alter Bridge, his solo, his Slash. I adore him. Bowie will always be in my heart and soul. Can never give Bowie up. And I believe that's 4, but I'm going to throw Jackson Browne in there because I love him too.
And I always appreciate each one of those artists that you said because they all evolved.
Yep.
They all changed over the years.
Right.
And that's the neat thing about it. And to me, Bowie is the definition of evolution.
Absolutely.
Because you change with the times. Any moment a new like album came out or a new sound, he was like ahead of the curve.
Always.
I feel like he was the bar for a lot of like people, and he has that most unique, distinct voice to it.
Well,
like
the voice is like butter. I mean, he could sing anything.
Yes.
And funny story, can I go off on a story here?
Oh, dude, go side tangents.
Because it is about Bowie. So, my Faye is my old girl, my dog, for the listeners out there that don't know who Faye is. She's my old girl. And so I had to take her to the veterinarian maybe like a month ago, and I had a Bowie shirt on, and the veterinarian said, "Who's that on your shirt?" And I said, "Oh, it's Bowie," and, sat up straighter so she could see. And she goes, "Oh my God, I love his voice." Like he was someone new to her. And I was like, "Well, yeah." She goes, "I never got into him until he died. And I went back and listened to his library." And she was like, "What a fantastic." And I just loved that. I mean, it was like, you're late to the game. Yeah, but good. You found him. So it was funny that this woman that is older than me was like, "I love him." And she started singing Modern Love. She just went into a key. And I just cracked up because I was like, good for you. So see, exactly. He's eternal always.
And you will never know when the artist is going to find you. That's the cool thing. You never can tell when it's going to find you, where the experience is. And I always love looking back at artists and saying, where were their influences? Where did this kind of come from? Like whenever I really got into Hendrix, I started going back to the Delta blues, and I was like, man, like this is really neat. And like you get into Robert Johnson, and then you get into a whole bunch of other bands, and it's like, man, I never knew this existed before.
Came from the blues and stuff. So much of the people we love, that's what they loved, were the blues. And it's like, wow, you're right. And I never would have gone and listened to the blues if, Greg Allman hadn't loved it. And like you're saying, Hendrix and Bowie and, Mick Jagger and all them. So yeah.
Yeah, and I love that. I respect a lot of Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones for whenever they were early in their career and they came to the United States, go, I want to tour with these guys. Like they brought out Muddy Waters. They brought out these other bands that, Bo Diddley, that were kind of like towards the end of their career, but they're like, hey, this is the bands that made us, and we want to bring them back out. And it totally reinvented a bunch of their careers as well. And they pay so much homage, and they come out and they'll tell you, this song came from this song came from that.
You're right.
And I love when bands do that rather than trying to like hide it and you don't know it. Like, and the Rolling Stones were always about paying homage and telling you out in the public during their interviews and stuff.
And they are definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah, they can go do Mick Jagger's on this whole different level.
Oh, yes.
So let's jump from, okay, we've got the bands.
Okay.
And what about the albums? Because you may have different albums that are not these musicians that you mentioned.
Well, the first one would be Annie Lennox, Diva. I love that album. That is like a go-to album. I love it. Her voice, every song on it, it brings back memories. So that's definitely one. It's hard to pick like your favorite artist or albums because there's just too many, But yeah, Annie Lennox was top. That just came to my brain, and it was Diva, and I love that. And then, of course, back to our Bowie, it's Ziggy Stardust. That album is so good. I mean, all of his albums were, but that's just got Rock and Roll Suicide and just everything on it. So you're like, yeah, this one's got to go in there. Van Halen, I always got to have a Van Halen. And my two favorites are not even other people's favorites. So they're getting 2 albums. It's Van Halen 2, because that's when I discovered them and fell in love with them. And I love that album. And I love Diver Down. I know it's got covers, but it's also got little guitars and some of the best songs ever. So those are like my 2 go-tos with Van Halen. And then Greg Allman, Laid Back, beginning to end,
Yes.
that album is just amazing. And like blues, and I love that album. So
That's the neat thing about with musicians as well, with bringing in their different sounds. The guitar players are so different, wide varieties. I was at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this past year and seeing this setup for Eddie Van Halen. I was like, Eddie, like, this is amazing, seeing the way he's like, oh yeah, I didn't like the guitars. I didn't like the way that, so I built my own and kind of put this into place. Then I didn't like the amps that were out there, so I modified this amp. And I go, those little things right there is what made them so unique too. In his own style and his own bits to it, that he's like, oh yeah, I wanted to add this in there, but no one was doing it, so I had to figure out how to do it and modify.
Well, and in the beginning, they were poor.
Yep.
So he couldn't afford to buy the nice pedals and this and that, so he had to build his own. So there you go. He really was a genius.
He
I
really
couldn't even
was.
speak English when he came to this country. So yeah, don't get me started, or this whole podcast can be about Eddie Van Halen.
Maybe a part 2 at some point. We come back and we discuss that. Emotions, happy, sad kind of deal. What, if you're feeling sad or you're feeling happy or feeling angry, what kind of music do you change in between for? 'Cause that's a tough question to think about.
Yeah, well, the first thing that comes to mind if I'm sad, and I love this album, but I'll cry, is Pink Floyd, The Final Cut.
Oh,
That album is just so emotional. Roger Waters was at his best. To me, it's got some of David Gilmour's best guitar solos. So if I'm sad and I know I just want to cry, I will put that on. If an artist has just passed away, I can listen to their music and I'll lose it. So sad, those are my 2 answers. If I'm mad, it's all according on what I'm mad about. If you've cut me off in traffic or something, Metallica is always good.
yes.
Stranglehold by Ted Nugent, it's like, you can go. Happy? Oh, wow. That would be anything, everything, because music makes me happy. So if I'm already happy, it's like, anything. You just put it on and let it roll. I have a playlist in my Amazon Music that it's got everything in it. I mean, it's got country, it's got, Jay-Z and Eminem, it's got my Van Halen, it's just got everybody. If someone looked in it, they'd be like, wow, you really listen to all this? Beethoven, Mozart, yeah.
That's the thing with genres and music, is you don't have to be stuck to one.
No, I hate that.
Yeah, if you're stuck in that corner, you're missing out
Well,
on so much.
all these people, I mean, I'm all for going to concerts and seeing people as much as you can, but it's also like, spread the love. Why just go see one band 30 times on their tour? I don't get it. I mean, yeah, if that's your thing, but I'm also like, get out of the box and go see other folk. I mean, use some of that money, but hey, again, don't tell me what to do with my money when it
True.
comes to music, and I want you. But I do see things, and I'm like, why is she seeing them 5 times? It's the same set list. Go see somebody else. But,
I can't say anything. There's like 3 bands that I've seen like 15 times.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. But that's over a multiple year span.
There. I'm talking about one tour, and it's like you're going to every, show of it, and it's like, okay.
It's like the Grateful Dead whenever you're like, hey, I'm just getting in the van and I'm just going along.
Now, the thing about the Dead is, at least they do, it's a different set list.
It's a jam.
I mean,
It's a jam.
But as much as I love them on record, I've never seen the Dead live. And I wanted to prior to this retirement, but I just didn't. But then when I looked at the set list and I saw that they did only like a handful of songs, but it was like a 3-hour show, I was like, okay, that means there's a lot of jamming up there, and I would have gotten tired. So
Yeah,
I'll just love them from afar.
for sure. Like Fish is another one of those bands that goes on like
I've
a whole
heard
long
that.
tangents.
I've heard that.
But each band has their own desire,
There
and
you
that's kind of a
go.
cool thing here. Now, in a day, if
Yes.
you were to pick a certain time of the day that, like, you know what, I need to listen to music, or I'm gonna pop on some music to kind of control my day, what is that time of the day that you're gonna pop on your key bits of music?
Well, if it's Monday through Thursday, I'm at work, so I listen to music all day when I'm at work. I'll start my day with it. I don't in the car on my drive, because that's my prayer time. That's my be quiet and do my own little thing, our little chants, our little just being ourselves. So I don't listen on my way to work, but I do listen as soon as I walk in. I'm like, Alexa, get it going. So So at work, definitely. Sometimes on the drive home, but sometimes it's just all according on what kind of day I had, how I feel. I might want to be quiet on that drive. So if I'm at home cleaning, definitely got to clean the music.
I do my dishes to music.
You know, you gotta, that just helps you, get the floors going, making the beds, whatever. So yeah. But a typical day, if it's Monday through Thursday, it's just during the day when I'm at work. You get home, you got cooking to do, you got animals to take care of. It's all according on somebody else in the house. So
That's true. Yeah, and I'm a vinyl person, so I love
Yes.
sitting down and plopping on the vinyl and letting it kind of run. Because I like to listen to a full album.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
if I'm going through, I'm like, hey, I want the full thing, the full experience.
Right.
It's nice to have the playlist whenever you're doing certain things because you have that
Sure.
emotion or you have that kind of vibe to it. But there's just something about the sound of vinyl.
Oh, yeah. It's the
It's just-
best. And
yeah.
people that say it's not, then they just don't know. And I mean, I grew up in the 70s, so that's all we had. It was tapes and the vinyl. And the vinyl, you could just, it's an experience. You
It is.
look at it, you read the liner notes, who they're thanking. You didn't know who any of these people were, but I
No.
liked to read it. It was like, thinking, or if they threw in there my dog, my mom, my dad, then it made you be like, oh, I really do like this person,
And
So-
having the artwork, it's a lot
Yes,
bigger.
yes.
You can hold it, you can
Pictures
feel
and-
it. And this is going to sound really weird for some people, but there is a distinct smell to vinyl as well.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a good mildew, I'd like to say, because it is molding. It is kind of changing the because it's cardboard, but it's like you distinctly walk in there and you go, there's vinyl in here. Like, I know it. It's like walking to an old bookstore. You kind of just feel
yeah.
that something's kind of a part of it. Like, okay.
You're exactly right. Yes.
I have a record problem. I know I have like 500 plus like records downstairs,
Oh, yeah.
and it's just, but it's me. It's like everybody has their own little collection of what they want. And some people are like, you have this album, but why don't you have that album? I go, it is kind of what it is. It's what I found, or this
Well,
is some
yeah.
kind of experience here that kind
It
of
is
plonks
an
up to it.
experience. I like going to the record store and just thumbing through and seeing old ones I forgot about or that I don't own. I love record store day every year, getting that list and looking and seeing what's coming out.
Yeah,
It's
the
just fun.
reissues, or like, hey, this is just
Yeah.
someone specifically putting out a single this day.
Right.
It's all variety. Now, we talked about emotions earlier. Is there certain songs that you associate to like a memory of time? Could be one song, could be multiple songs. I'll give an example of mine. Bittersweet Symphony by The Verve.
I love that
song I connect to my grandfather. Whenever I hear it,
Aw.
I automatically like think to my grandfather. Like, man, like this song, and I'll sit back and I'll cry, and I'll just kind of put that in place. I'm like, man, granddaddy, like just it connected emotion for me.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That is a good song. And I love that song as well. But the first thing that popped in my head when you said that, who's a person and, a song and it just is memories, it's Bob Seger and it's that song Mainstreet. And that always reminds me of my stepfather who has passed away, who raised me, my mom's second husband. And every time I hear that song, his face pops in my head, his being David Rosser, my stepdad. It's just, and it brings back good memories. They loved Bob Seger, him and her. They played music all the time. They saw him on that tour. So that's one song that always, I hear Mainstreet, it's my stepdad.
You got to have those moments. That's a cool thing with music as well. Is it
And I
can
love that song
connect to
too,
you.
the horn and all that in it. So it's a great song anyways, but yeah, totally. But when you were saying that verb pipe song and reminding you of your grandfather, my grandfather's favorite song was Wayfaring Stranger. So anybody can do that. And I'll be in tears in a minute because that reminds me of my papa also.
Ralph Stanley's version of that song to me is my favorite version of that one.
Just a great song. Yes.
All around. Like my mom will say, anybody that sings I'll Fly Away, like my mom will just instantly be in tears.
Yep.
Like hearing that song, because there's so many different connections. But that's the neat thing with some songs is if I want to hear a cover, I want you to add your own twist to it.
Oh, yeah.
I want you to change something up. I want you to add something, because if I'm wanting to hear the same version every time, like what's different? What are you adding? Where's your take into the world? So
Yeah. Make it yours.
exactly.
If you're going to cover a song, I'd like to think it's because it's a song that meant something to you. Like if I could sing, I mean, I think I can, but obviously not professionally.
We all
But
sing
if
in
I
the
was gonna
shower on the
do a
road,
cover song, I would pick songs that I love that mean something to me. So
Exactly. And I love whenever they do the albums that they have, here is one band but we're going to everybody, a different artist for each. So it's like a compilation album. I love those. I love that. And especially when they do like smaller venues will do that of, okay, we're going to have a band, each band's going to come on and play 2 or 3 songs for a tribute to this kind of individual. I always love those.
Oh, yeah.
Those are always fascinating, but they take longer to do because each band wanted to bring up their own little stuff or taking things down. But those are kind of fun. That just kind of, it works out for me. But speaking of songs,
okay,
if you were stuck and all the music was eliminated from the world and you had to have one song that would be on repeat for an entire day, what song would you want that to be?
This is always my go-to. I love this song. People look at me sometimes like I'm Medusa with snakes coming out of my head when I say this. But it's Louis Armstrong's What a Wonderful World. I freaking love that song. I can listen to it all day, anytime. His voice is so rich on it. And then just the words, the lyrics, and it's just like, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. And you're like, yeah, it really is,
Again, another one of those,
I can listen to it.
Another one of those cover songs that changed the world.
His version is just, the best.
Yeah, he has that raspy tone that no one can kind of be able to match up, and
just comes from way down in him. You can feel it, it does.
Yeah, that's the expression, as you said, you can feel him through the speakers that he is having that one-on-one conversation.
I
with
love
you.
that song.
That is a good one. I have that on whenever my wife and I were making playlists to kind of like connect whenever we were living apart. And that was, I think, number like 3. So you got to make someone like a set list, a little playlist to kind of show your character.
And it's in that playlist I told you that's on my Amazon. That's just, so is Wayfaring Strangers. You never know. I'll go from a Metallica headbanging and then one of them will come on and I'll be in tears.
I haven't listened to the album yet, but I heard in the new Foo Fighters album, there's a song that instantly just kind of makes you cry. I haven't heard it yet. But I love when songs kind of can get that emotion out of you.
I don't know which one it is because I'll be honest with you. I've only made it through about 5 songs because that's just still so raw, Taylor.
Yeah, it is.
And I know that was such a big deal for Dave to lose his mom and his best friend, his brother. So I haven't gone there yet, but I plan to.
Yeah, I've only done 2 songs so far. But I had a warning from one of my friends. He goes, when you'll know the song when it gets there. I'm not going to tell you because you're going to skip to it or something like that. I'm like, but I'm with you. It's hard when a band member is lost.
Yeah.
And because it changes things. But I'm glad, I like the drummer they chose. Because
I love Josh Freese.
Yeah. Yes. I love that they chose him.
He's
great.
Really
makes, because he's getting the studio musician. He's been there. He's done that. He knows he's going to add his own twist. Yeah. Whenever you bring in someone else from another band that's established, your brain only hears that musicians from that band. You think, oh wait, they're bringing in that sound or they're bringing in that, and he has his own unique little taste that I think is not associated as much with one band because he's played with everybody.
You look at his resume and it's like, oh wow, he did that. Oh my God, he was on that. Oh yeah,
and you don't think about it. He's the ultimate studio musician, but also if someone gets hurt, call him. He's coming on tour.
Yeah.
And in a moment, notice he drops his hat and just kind of goes.
Well, and he was friends with Taylor, so it feels like it's a little bit of a divine, that Taylor's okay with that.
True. And he plays different in a way that he has a smaller set that he plays through, but he plays just as hard, but it all connects together. It really does. Now, when it comes to music, are you more of an instrumental or are you more kind of like the vocalist, or what are you kind of looking for whenever you get into the song? Because there's some bands like we write the music first or we write the vocals first. What kind of connects to you?
I don't know, honestly. I just hear something and I know whether or not I like it. I mean, I think it's very interesting that Elton John and Bernie Taupin are not together and they write their songs.
Yes.
And they are, 2 rooms and they don't even know. And it's like, I bring this and then I bring this and we make it work. And my God, they're some of the best songs that have ever. So, I mean, that to me is amazing that people do that. Slash writes all the music and then just gives it over to Miles and Miles puts the lyrics to it. And to me, it's like, how in the world do you do that? How do you listen to all this guitar riffing and all this and you put all these lyrics to it? You're a genius as well as a great singer. So it's just amazing to me. I'm just glad that I get the finished product and I love it.
Yeah, that's the true thing. And musicians, each one's their own different little piece. They have their own minds. And whenever you find that right mesh together is so exciting. And you can hear it whenever it goes in because a band within the first 15 minutes, okay? This band's got clicked together.
Yeah.
Or this band's they're not quite there yet, but they're sort of getting there. And especially over the evolution of like 5-10 years, 1 year to year 3, like it just constantly evolves. A true musician, you know it, you see it, like you see it.
I mean, I love, songs, obviously, and the lyrics and whatever, but then I also just like spa music where it's just, piano or whatever. It doesn't even have to have lyrics. It's just like it suits your mood at a certain time. So, yeah. Instrumentals, I can do that too. Again, back to your whole mood, how you're feeling.
Yes. Now, what about like, are you more of an acoustic person or are you more of an electric person?
Well, I'd say probably electric. I say that, but then it's like there are some acoustic albums and you're just like, or you go see somebody and it's just them acoustic without their band and you're blown away, like Jackson Browne or Miles Kennedy solo. So it's like sometimes you don't know when you go and you're like, oh, there's nobody else here. It's just going to be them. This will be interesting. And then you're blown away. You think it'd be boring, but then it's not.
That's the thing when it kind of creates a vibe.
In between.
Exactly. The stories in between. I didn't get to go to the Chris Cornell one, but when he came through and did the acoustic set and he talked in between each song.
Amazing.
Dakota came and told me the next day, he goes, you missed such an amazing show of him talking about each song in between.
And just telling stories. And then, I may start crying. That was amazing. That was a great show.
Another one we lost too soon.
Oh, absolutely. That voice is just, yeah.
And you can look at those generations and look through like different genres and finding that voice, that somebody that really kind of makes them. And you can do that with musicians too. You can look at the band and go, the drummer makes the band, or if without the vocalist, this band wouldn't kind of fit. But it's musicians that we lose and we gain, but it's, in my opinion, we got the pleasure of actually seeing them and being a part of them. So that's the biggest gift in this band. It's like, you mourn that you lost him, but man, I'm like, celebration, we had him for this long and he gave us what we had.
The music still, they're gone, but they're not gone.
Exactly.
They were here for a reason and for a time and left their gifts.
Yeah. Now, if you're following, like, we're going to use Chris Cornell as an example.
Okay.
Like, how closely are you going to follow an individual, like within a band, like a singer or a drummer, if they're moving on saying that, hey, we're going to move to a side project band, or we're going to write a book, or we're going to do like a TV show appearance here? How close are you following those individuals of like your favorites?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I love the side projects. I flew to Vegas to see Taylor Hawkins.
In the coattails?
No, it was a Chevy Metal, his cover band. Yeah. And that was my first trip ever to Vegas. And all they did were cover songs, which were great, so it wasn't like any Foo Fighters. It wasn't anything like that. It was Bowie and it was Jane's Addiction and it was fun. They were having fun. So obviously I follow side projects. Yeah, books. I read Dave Grohl's book. He put out Storyteller. He's a great storyteller. Duff McKagan, I went to Nashville when he put out his solo album. I mean, obviously he's known as the great bass player in Guns N' Roses, but he didn't play the bass. He wrote these more acoustic type songs on this solo album, and it was amazing. And he played his acoustic guitar, and he was the front guy, and he sang, and it was like, this is amazing, and it was a small crowd. And I was like, are these people crazy? Where is everybody? This is Duff McKagan.
You're missing it. Yeah.
And he's written books, and I haven't read all of them, but I've read one of them, and it was great, where he just gave his life advice because he's made mistakes and blew through a kidney and all of that. And he could tell
he's seen a lot of things.
Yeah, he's seen and done a lot. So yeah, I would say I follow him 100% if it's somebody I really care about, or really enjoy. So.
And I love it whenever, if they do an audiobook of it, I want the band member to read it.
Yes.
Because of listening to storytellers. Dave Grohl went on some side tangents that were not in the book, and I was like,
I loved it. And he's got a great speaking voice, too.
Oh, he does.
So, yes.
He
Absolutely.
does. Oh, now, original lineups to like band members coming in and out, does that matter to you at all?
Solid Cornell, which member it is. I mean, obviously, if someone dies, there's nothing you can do about that. And I mean, we can just go back to Foo Fighters. I mean, it wasn't planned for Taylor to pass.
No.
And I didn't want the Foo Fighters to stop. So I'm glad that they're carrying on. But then, and I don't like this band, so I'm sorry to anybody listening if it's your favorite band, but like Leonard Skinner, I don't think that there's anybody original in that band, but yet they're still touring and they're calling it, and all their people are going and seeing them. And I laugh because I'm like, Okay, I mean, yeah, go if you want to, if that's your thing, but they're not mine. So see,
Yeah, it doesn't hold the
you can,
same
yeah.
trill.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of my bands, and it's like no, but okay, here's perfect. If Eddie Van Halen died and they tried to, or well, he did die. What I'm trying to say is, if they tried to
Reformed.
do
Yeah.
Van Halen, hell no, I would be holding a picket sign. There is no Van Halen without Eddie Van Halen. So,
It's in the name.
yeah, I mean, I don't even care if his son is there and his brother are there. Yes, they're both blood Van Halens, but it is not Van Halen without Eddie. So yeah, I guess I do have feelings one way or the other.
Now, if you could form the ultimate super band, who would it be? They could be alive. They could be dead. In any generation, different genres.
Okay. So bass player will be Duff McKagan. Lead guitarist would be Eddie Van Halen. Rhythm guitarist, because, you can have two guitarists. Stone Gossard. Love my Stoney from Pearl Jam. My drummer, we're going to go with two because, one guy's older, one guy's younger, so they can back each other up. It'd be Alex Van Halen and Taylor Hawkins. And then my singer, who could sing all of that and be really good? Ooh, Miles Kennedy.
Ooh.
He can sing anything. And he loved Van Halen. He's a Guns N' Roses guy. Yeah, Miles can do that. There you go. Is that a good super group? Was
That works for
everybody?
me. This
Do we
is
need
your
a keyboard
group.
player?
If you want to
'Cause
add
I
them
can
in, this is your band. This is your fantasy band that you're creating here. You could be like the Grateful Dead and have like 20 members on stage. Like, it's however you need to be able to make the music that you need to hear.
Oh, a keyboard player. Who could we do? Who do I know that's Chuck Lavelle. Love that guy. Georgia guy. He was an Allman brother. He is a Rolling Stone. Let's just throw Chuck in there. Everybody loves Chuck. He could play the keys. There you go. That's a great super group. I'd be at that in a heartbeat, man.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, I think millions of people would be
They would love
dying
it.
for that. And some super groups work, some super groups don't work.
Yeah.
That's the challenge that you run into when you have different personalities and different ideas in
yeah.
music that kind of work out. My favorite super group, I will say, was them Crooked Vultures.
That's a great group.
I love that super group. That was so...
John Paul Jones, wow, is
Yeah.
so underrated. Everybody loves Robert Plant, of course, the Golden God, and everybody thinks that Jimmy Page is the greatest. I don't, but whatever. Again, not trying to make anybody mad out there.
Everybody has their own opinions.
But John Paul Jones, sweetie, and just super. And one of my favorite albums is by Cinderella that he produced. I've gone brain dead, but he produced an album by Cinderella, and it's amazing. And I can't believe I can't think of the title of it right now. It'll come to me, and I'll scream it.
Do it whenever it
There
comes
you
back to you.
But yes, and Josh, oh my God.
Josh Homme, yes.
Woo, there ain't nothing he can't do.
Another one of those unique voices. Another one of those, and you had so many people that could write and be able to bring it in, and it was just...
It's a great album.
It was a great album. I got lucky that I got to see them.
I know.
And it was such a good
love
show.
That for you. I
Like-
didn't go to that. I love that for you.
There's so many shows that, again, we all miss and we get to see and we
Yeah.
kind of don't, but it's nice to be able to kind of share those memories and share
But
that
Dave
kind of
on
stuff.
drums, I love Dave on drums always. Anytime Grohl gets on the drums, because he gets that goofy kid, like he was that skinny 19-year-old back in Nirvana, when he gets back there and he is grinning from ear to ear and sticking that tongue out, and you're like, this guy is in heaven right now.
And I love that he flips his sticks around and plays with the other ends because it makes it so much louder and just builds that kind of tension to it. And he's
Yes.
all over the drum set. That's why I love whenever they did one of the Muppet movies and they were like, oh, we recreated the band of Electric Mayhem. And he was the drummer. And I was like, yes,
He's animal.
he fits Animal perfectly. He totally does. It really does kind of fit there.
Yes.
There's so much music out there in this world. I mean, it's
know.
endless. How do you seek out new music? How does it find you? Like, what's the world for finding new music for Tammy?
Well, I'm probably bad and don't really listen to what would be considered new music, but
It could be old music that you just find.
well,
Like, how does music find you?
there's a band called the Struts. Do you know the
I know the
Struts?
Struts. Yeah.
They opened for the Foo Fighters. They took them on tour, and I was like, "Who is this band?" And there were people there that went to the show just to see them. weren't even there for the Foo Fighters. And then I was blown away how great they were, and what a great front man and all that. So they were new to me. when I found them, and that was thanks to the Foo Fighters, there's a station on Sirius. When I listen to Sirius, it's called The Spectrum, and they play like old stuff, and then they throw in new music. Some of it's by older people, and some of it's by new bands. So there's been music I've heard on there that I'm like, what is this? And I Shazam it, and I'm like, never heard of this person. I like this song.
Save.
Yeah, exactly. And I look them up and put them in a playlist. Yeah. Dak sometimes will come in and be like, hey, Mom, have you heard this song by the Pretty Reckless? And I'm like, who are the Pretty Reckless? And then he goes down the whole line of telling me who Taylor Momsford is, or Momsfin, whatever her last name is. So, I mean, sometimes it's just somebody telling you about, you need to listen to this. You would like this. So,
And always keeping the open mind.
oh, yeah,
That's
I'll
always a key
listen to
thing.
anything, you know, if at least once. If I don't like it, it's like, don't need to hear that again. If I do, it's like I said, Shazam and add it to a
Yep.
playlist.
And creative. That's the cool thing. I do love that we have that technology now
Yeah.
of being out in a club. It's like, I like this song. What is
Overhead
this?
music,
Yeah.
exactly. And you're like, okay, I don't know what this is. Or you hear somebody doing a cover of a song that
Yes.
you know, and you're like, I've never heard this cover. Who is this? And you, yeah, exactly.
And I love that it has that feature to save.
Mhm.
Because if not, you're like trying to get out a pen and paper and trying to write it down. Or if you're like if it's back in the 90s and having to get out the cassette player to be able to hit record whenever it comes on the radio. Can I listen this up later? Can I
Oh.
hear this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Waiting for the radio to play. I grew up in that generation. Waiting for the radio to play your favorite song so you could hit record, and you
Yep.
could get it because there were no singles, no CD singles, no tape singles. You either had to wait and buy the whole album or just be able to save it or let's do it on the radio.
Exactly.
Back
And
when we had radio and you could call a disc jockey and they actually answered the phone and you could say, hey, play that new song by whoever.
you rarely have that anymore. And I miss on 99X where they used to do Sunday school, and they would also like play the acoustic versions of
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
or pull in and say, hey, like call in and give us a song cover. That was like a cover of the day kind of deal.
Right.
And then they would have the bands that were coming into town come in and sit in the studio
Oh, yeah.
and talk to you. Like I still remember clear as day, I was seeing Zwan, one of Billy Corgan's solo bands, when after the Smashing Pumpkins broke up, and they came on and they recorded, it was acoustic set on 99X. And I was like, this is better than the show that I went to.
Yeah.
Just like sitting here and listening to this, because they talked between the songs and they maybe pulled in a different instrument, and because of its acoustic, it felt a little bit more intimate and changed. But that one still is one that impacted me and kind of just reminded me, wow, there's so many different ways to engulf in one song
Yeah.
that's out there.
It's true.
So
It can change it if it's a rock song, like something that the Pumpkins did that was more rocky. And then if they did it slowed down, I'm sure. And his voice is so unique. I know
yeah.
some people can't stand it. I love it. You know, I'm a Pumpkins fan. So I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, when they did Landslide, I was like,
I
oh,
love that.
It was his
I
own
loved
twist.
Landslide,
Yeah,
yes.
his own little twist there.
He loved it. And so, like we talked about, put his spin on it.
Yep,
Yes.
totally did. If you were going to recommend, it could be a new artist or it could be an artist that you have from the past that you're like, hey, this band gets overlooked. Listen to this band. Pull up something that you would say you want to listen to. What would be a recommendation? It could be an album. Could be a single, just a single song. Could be a variety of different stuff. This is a hard question that kind of
That
pops
is a
up.
hard question.
Like for me, I will throw out one of my recommendations of Dum Dum Girls, the album End of Days. Like that album is one of my top 5 favorite albums of all time, but no one ever knows the band. And it's literally like Dum Dum, like DUM Girls. And it was an all girl
I
group.
don't know them.
And yeah, it's just,
Let me
it's
write that down.
one of those albums that for me just kind of sticks out. I finally the other day tracked down the vinyl version and was able to buy it and bring it in an Atlanta band, All the Saints,
Ooh.
Fires on Corridor X. They were only around for a couple of years, but that was one of my all there. Like it's a top 10 album for me. I'm like, wow, like there's local bands that we miss that no one ever knows about or no one
Yeah.
ever hears. And then it kind of pops up like All the Saints opened up for Them Crooked Vultures because they picked them out saying this band, their drummer Jim, and when the two Jim and Dave Grohl were standing next to each other and go, that is the best drum duo of all time right there. And Dave made a comment. He goes, I heard this band perform. You felt like Jim was going to come across the drums and like destroy you. Like this is like, oh my, because it's the energy that Dave Grohl had. So
I like when bigger bands come, and this has happened back. So going back to what you were just saying, when they come and they get these openers and they are like local, like Alice in Chains loves to do that.
yeah.
So they had like this band, what are they called? Starbenders, I think is their name. And they're from Atlanta and never heard of them. And now I see them popping up all the time, playing all around Atlanta. And they've gone out. The Struts have had them open for them. So it's like, you go to a town, you should seek out if you're a bigger group and say, let's get some local bands to open.
You never know what you're going to wind up finding. Like that's the cool thing about when I love that. I love when the artist picks their opening acts. It's not the venue, it's the artist.
Right.
And because of that's, you're going to see a little bit more insight into that band as well. Like it's kind of cool. And I love when bands start their own record labels. And they kind of, you see a little bit of their taste of whenever they're bringing in an artist and kind of put something out there. It's always good.
I don't know if I can say this word on here. It should be okay. It's the name of a band, Thunder Pussy. They are amazing. And I saw them open up for Jerry Cantrell earlier this year. And the guitar player would blow anybody away. And she came to the microphone and said, so up here in the balcony tonight is my family. I'm a local girl born and raised in Marietta, Georgia. And I was like, oh my God. And they're amazing. So back to your, how do you get in? This is great when they get these bands. They're not local. She was, but it's still good. And they were a good opener, and that's a good band. Your recommendation I'm going to go with, because I keep talking about Alice in Chains, so he must be in my brain, is William DuVall, who sings for Alice in Chains. He is amazing, and he has put out 2 solo albums, and that guy can sing like no one. And he plays the guitar amazingly, and sometimes it's like stepping into the shoes of someone that passed away. They kind of get pigeonholed or whatever, but he shouldn't. So I'm recommending him. People should go listen to his 2 solo albums. William DuVall.
And then I'm going to put, there's going to be a lot of music as a heads up throughout the description here, but I'm going to go through and pick certain things to kind of put down there for people to kind of go through and listen when there's like recommendations and stuff. So look to the description later to kind of find a little bit of different information that's kind of out there. It may wind up being 3 pages long, 4 pages long, but I'm going to try to go through and kind of write some things in there that maybe people don't think about.
Yeah, I like that.
So we're going to go from the recommendation. We've talked about the artist, talked a little bit about your music background. That's go to another phase of from you're sitting in the car to you're at the music venue.
Okay.
You're going to a show. What was your first concert?
Oh, that's easy. Sean Cassidy, 1978 at the Omni in Atlanta, and we had floor seats. My mom worked with a guy that had an inn at the Omni, and he was able to get us tickets, and she took me and my older sister and my aunt went, and I was blown away because I was on every Sunday, watched, the Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew Mysteries, and loved him. And so that was my first concert, Sean Cassidy, and I still have the ticket stub, and the tickets cost like $5.50.
Yeah, we were having that discussion earlier about how concert prices have gone from like, hey, $10, $15 to now like, holy moly, like $2,000
Right?
to sit and just listen to this band. And you're like, I don't know.
No.
Like, where's coming? And then the fees now that are killing everything.
That's the thing, maybe having a little bit more expensive tickets. Okay, if I knew that when I got on there that my ticket was $250 and then that was it. But then when you go to the checkout and it bumps up to like $325 and you're like, wow, okay.
I wish I would have known this from the beginning.
Yeah.
Because you can't predict what the service fee is. My cat Zinson just walked in, and so you may hear in the background some crunching of some food. He's been laying down on the back guest bed for a while because it's never open. So he's like, oh, yay. I may have to let him out here in a minute, but we'll see kind of where that goes. But roughly how many concerts, if you had to estimate, how many concerts have you been to over your lifetime? It doesn't have to be precise. It could be like a rough estimate, ballpark.
You would have to think thousands, right? I mean, I'm 54. I started when I was, 7, 8, 1978. I was born in 69. So, 8 years old. Good night. Thousands. Yeah. Because I've seen Van Halen alone 30 times. So you put it like that if you've seen a band that many times. And then, Foo Fighters, 10, 15? Yeah. Thousands. I have no idea. It's thousands.
That's one thing that I always respect and love, seeing your ticket stubs that you have up and having all the stuff mentioned around. And whenever you say, oh yeah, I've seen this band this many times and that many times, I always, again, this is why I picture you when it comes to music of, yep, there's my standard. Just
Well,
to be able to know.
you walk in the house and what is it? The first thing you see are just, pictures and posters hanging up all over the house. So, yeah.
And it works. And you said you've seen some bands, 30, 15. Which band have you seen the most?
It'd be Van Halen 30 times when EVH passed away and I found all my ticket stubs and I started going through the memory banks and whatever. They still hold the record
That's amazing.
of 30 times because I saw them from 81 up until he died. Anytime I got a chance. I even went to the OU 812 tour when I was 8 months pregnant with Dakota. So I told him, I said, actually, your first concert was Van Halen. You were just in my stomach. And I went by myself to that. So,
but at 8 months, he really could hear everything and really kind of get that experience.
Yeah, he was a kicker.
So for sure, like that's probably, that's how he gets all his love for music is definitely 100% from you. And
The
you
way
started
I
it
got
early.
it from my mom.
Yeah.
It was always music in the house.
And
Always.
that changes everything for so many people. Going to a concert, there are so many just elements that go to it. Who, in your opinion, is the best front man that really kind of connects you into a show? You could have 2 or 3 if you want to. And why do you like that individual?
I'm going to go with Jagger. He just knows what to do. I mean, he dances, he dresses good, but not like over the top. He sings, he tells his stories. He's funny. The way he moves, he's just those long, skinny arms. I'm going to go with Jagger.
You can't beat that stage presence.
No.
That's the biggest thing.
He owns it.
You have to get the crowd involved entirely.
I've seen the Stones 3 times and they are amazing. I mean, and he just sympathy for the devil and he has that top hat on and he comes out in the long coat with tails and you're just into it. And then, yeah, I'm giving it to him. I mean, as much as I love Paul Stanley and getting on the high trapeze thing and flying over the crowd and all that. I mean, I love him. He's a great front man. But again, that's a show. That's a makeup. That's a flamboyant. That's all of that. If I'm just going to go with somebody that comes out and sings and dances and talks and interacts, I'm going to give it to Jagger.
Hey, I believe that 110% of that. And even as you get up in age, he's like a fine wine. He just keeps getting better. And the band, the way they perform, the more and more knowledge they get into it, it's just like,
I mean,
you can't beat it.
Yeah, no. I saw them the last time they were here. What was that, like a year or so ago? And I mean, it was amazing. That huge arena down there in Atlanta. And I mean, everybody was on their feet the entire time and he never stopped. And you're like, okay, this is it. You are the king.
It's, 100% true. 100% true when it comes to that. And everybody has their own different opinions.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's why we say, hey.
Well, hey, we can even say the little, like Luke Spiller, I love from the Struts. He is an amazing front guy. And again, dances and sings and he wears all his capes and stuff and gets you into it. And they play the small places. He's fantastic. Can't take your eyes off of him. So when he's 70, I fully expect the younger generation will be saying him like I'm saying Jagger.
As it should be. And that's the cool thing is every person should have their different opinion, their different ideas. And that's what makes it so fascinating of everybody's going to take different references and different stuff from other people and they build and grow.
Oh, yeah.
And it should be.
It's the beauty of music.
Now, when going to a concert, some people have rituals that they go through before going to a show. Do you have a pre-show ritual?
Well, this is defined by if it's a general admission and I'm going for rail, then, you eat early, you make sure that you got comfortable shoes, you get there early because you're going to be camping out and wait for that door to open so you can make a run for the rail. If it's a seated event, then we'll usually have a drink and go out to eat, take our time, but I always like to get there and be in line before the doors open because I want to get in, get to the merch, get to the restroom, get me another drink or whatever, find my seat. I'm not one of those running in by the skin of your teeth kind of people, so.
You got to see the opening bands. You got to see everything because if you never know the experience of
you
what's
don't
going
know
on.
what. Yeah, exactly. What's going to happen?
It's true.
And sometimes you never know when you're the first person at the merch table. This just happened to a friend. If you bought the CD or the album at the Bryan Adams Joan Jett, if you bought Bryan Adams' new CD for $20 or the vinyl for $30, you were one of the first 100 people. They gave you a wristband and they got to meet him after the show and he signed it. But they're not advertising that. So, hey, why wouldn't you get there on time and go straight to the merch? You never know when something special is going to be going on.
That's true. That's true. they're not going to do it every show, but that's the thing of
You never
you never
know.
can
So
tell.
get there and go. If you're going to buy a shirt anyways or look at what they got, go ahead on.
And if you're getting down there early to get kind of in line, you never know if you're going to run into a musician at a coffee shop or something like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
You never
Yeah.
can kind of tell.
Yeah.
If you stick around, just kind of just see, because
Well, yeah.
some places that they do that. Oh crap, we haven't ate yet. Let's go out and grab something real quick.
True. Lined up for the rail back in January at the Alter Bridge show, and Mammoth was opening, which is Wolf Van Halen's band. And two of the guys that are in his band, Frank Sidoris, and I'm very sorry, I'm blanking on the other guy's name right now, but I saw him walking and I was like, "Hey guys," and started screaming, and they were like, "Okay, she sold us out." They waved back,
Man.
but it was like, "Hey," and I was lined up early. Had I not been there, I wouldn't have seen them. So there you go.
That's a win. That's a win. Going in, you're getting to the rail, you're getting started into the concert to get ready. Do you have like an etiquette that you think people should be able to follow come in? Because I have pet peeves with phones. Whenever someone's
yeah.
standing there on the phone and they're looking at trying to focus, I'm like, you're missing the concert. You're looking behind the phone.
Well, don't block my
Yeah.
view with your phone.
True.
I mean, no. Oh, yeah. Concert etiquette has gone downhill. First off, get off me. If I'm in front of you, you getting right up on me is not going to get you any closer. So I have sharp elbows and I have used them. Don't. There's no reason to. The only thing in front of me is the rail. You're not going to split me in half. I'm not going anywhere. So get off of me. And I have had to tell people that. Like you're saying, I'm fine with taking a picture. I don't go to live through my phone. I'm not recording a whole thing, but you can hold your phone in front of yourself and not up over your head
Yes.
and take pictures, because I have done it. So, you don't need to hold it up and be blocking everybody. I can't stand signs. Nobody cares that it's your kid's first concert. I don't care. They don't care. People hear me. No one cares it's your kid's first concert. Taking a sign. And I hate all the people that want to play drums with Dave Grohl at the Foo Fighters shows that take all those. Put your sign down. He's not going to pull you up and let you play drums. He made the mistake of doing that one time. Now everybody does it.
Yeah, it's true. You do it once or twice and everybody expects it.
And
which
if
is
you're
kinda
going to
true.
drink, that's fine, but keep your beer to yourself. I don't want to go home smelling like a brewery when I didn't drink, having it go down my back or all over my feet, because I'm a flip-flop girl, because I'm a born and raised Georgian, and there ain't snow on the ground and I'm wearing my flip-flops. I don't want to be sliding around in your beer because you couldn't hold on to it. So, yeah, those are a couple of my pet peeves.
The pushing through with like 2 or 3 beers too, like you're holding
Wow.
it and trying to go
On
from the back to the front.
rail, really?
Gosh,
No.
you're
Get
gonna
a
come
seat
up.
then, or
Yeah.
stand in the back, because if you're clearly there to drink and have a social hour, and that's another thing. Cannot stand talking at concerts.
I agree.
I can talk to you when you're beside me. I don't need to hear everybody's combo of screaming. If you're screaming, then that means that the music's playing and that you don't need to be talking.
If you're singing the song, that's
That's
fine.
fine. I
But
don't
it's like if you're
care.
having a side conversation.
And how many have you
you're
been
ending
to
it.
where they're talking about having their floors redone, or they're going to the beach next week, and you're like, are you kidding me? There is a concert going on. Yeah.
Yep. Entirely.
Yeah.
Now, what makes a good venue and what makes a bad venue?
Good venues are small venues. I love small venues. The people that have got it together, that when the doors open, they're getting you in safely, you're getting in there, it's clean, that makes a good venue. Bad venues, again, are the beggars. I don't think the sound is as good. I feel like it bounces around off the ceiling. But I mean, again, if you want to see somebody and they're big enough and they're playing an outdoor huge arena, or, the Benz down in Atlanta, I'm going to go see them and try to get the best seat I can. But I like the smaller venues. I think they're nicer. I think the sound is better.
Setting up a venue can go a long way, and getting good acoustics. Oh my gosh, if you have like cement floors, it could be negative, because but it could be positive. It depends upon how you have everything else in the building set up. It really can. If you have like a little bit of the musician absorption, like acoustic pieces or something like that, having good speakers goes a long way as well. Like if you don't, it can really end a concert in a negative way for me.
Yeah,
Like,
well, you know more about all that technical stuff than I do, but I can certainly say that I have been to some where you're just like, okay, this sound is not great.
going into a crowd, what would be the perfect style crowd for you at a concert? What would that be for you? It could be indoors, it could be outdoors, and how like just people around you, how are they like acting, that would be like, this is perfect.
Oh, when they're into it and not telling you to sit down or asking you, they're short, can they get in front of you? It's like, again, not so much with the phones. I don't care if you're taking pictures or want to record your favorite song they're singing. Keeping your beer to yourself. Everything that makes it bad, what makes it good is not having all of that. Or if it's a sit down crowd, I'm fine with sitting down. If a certain artist or there's certain songs, when this comes on, everybody's going to stand up, and it's like, I'm going to stand up even if I don't like that song particularly, because it's like, this is my chance to stand up. I'm a stander, so I like general admission and I like being on the rail, but not all people are that way, and especially the older crowds and the older bands, but yeah, I'm just be courteous. That's the whole thing.
That's true. When you ever come in, like whenever I see a mosh pit going on, my brain goes,
oh no.
If you're in the mosh pit, you pick a person up if you fall. You got to be respectful of that. If you know that everybody's getting in there, but I don't want the guy that's coming and throwing bows like to actually like hurt you. Like, dude, if you're going to do a mosh pit, be kind. Pick the guy up next to you. And if you see people around you that are not wanting to be a part, don't drag them into it. And don't go slam up against them. Find your space in that range if you're wanting to do that. And I'm not a mosh pit person,
Me
but
either.
But I feel like there needs to be a little bit of like kindness and courteousness there. So as with anything, just don't be a jerk. Number one rule, don't be a jerk.
Yes, don't be ugly.
Yeah. Now going to concerts, you said earlier you went to Vegas. You've been kind of different spots. What's the furthest you have traveled for a concert?
I've been to LA and to Vegas, so whichever one of them is further away, then that would be it. I've been to New York, but I think that's probably a closer trip, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Vegas or LA. I haven't been out of the country, but I just got my passport. And
there you go.
Yeah, it's happening. It's happening.
I've seen a couple of shows over in the UK that I've gone in Britain and London and seen a couple of shows. I even got to see Foo Fighters at Wembley Arena, not stadium, but I got to see Foo Fighters at Wembley Arena.
Amazing.
Which was mind-blowing.
Right. Yeah. That's amazing. I want to go to something over there. I wanted to go recently to that Jeff Beck memorial.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't have the passport yet. It was in process. It's now been mailed to me. So,
You never can tell how fast something's going to arrive or not arrive in that kind of range.
Yeah.
Now, if you had to pick your top 5 concerts that you've been to, you can say more if you want to, but what would be some of your top 5 concerts you've attended? Because that's definitely hard the thousands of concerts you've gone to.
The very first Van Halen show was the Hide Your Sheep, which was the 1981. So I was a youngling. What's that? 11, 12 at most. It was before Diver Down came out. And I went with my sister and her coworker, and I was blown away. I mean, it was loud, and it was just, that was a great one. Any Coldplay, I love them, and they put on the best live concerts, and I have seen them a half a dozen times, and everyone is amazing to me. I love them, so underrated. Neil Diamond with my mom, because it's my mom, and that's her favorite person, and he was such a great performer. Chris Cornell, that solo one, like we were just talking about, was amazing. And Greg Allman, we used to see him for New Year's Eve, ringing in the new year, also at Atlanta Symphony Hall. He used to do that when he was still alive every year. Those were fun shows.
Yeah, going to the Pops at the Symphony Hall is always phenomenal.
I love Symphony Hall. Yeah. It's a great arena.
It doesn't matter where you're sitting at, the bottom or the top.
Back to the acoustics.
Yep.
There you go.
It is the perfect acoustic setup. That's the main reason why.
Those would be a few of the greatest, I think. There's been plenty that were amazing. I mean, the Stones, like I said, The Who were amazing. Lucas Nelson. But yeah, I'll go with those first few I said as just being really the ones that stick out.
Now, going to concerts over the years, there are some bands that are studio musicians that are great, and there's some bands they don't translate to live. Mm-hmm. Have you ever been to some of those where you're like, man, I kind of regret this a little bit because it didn't translate right? Or does it matter to you?
Oh, it matters. If I spend money and I go see you, I want to be blown away and have a great time. And I know people are going to throw daggers at me on this, but when you say what's the worst concert I've ever been to, it was Neil Young.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you would think, right?
Yeah.
He is not for me. I love his music. I love his albums. Well, not all of it, but majority. And it was him solo because I have seen Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and they were amazing. He didn't do a lot of the stuff I wanted to hear, which I mean, I get that. Hey, Bruce does that. Pearl Jam does that. They do what they want to do, and I respect that. But yeah, it just wasn't for me. I wasn't blown away by him. And I've seen him
Interesting.
twice. I even gave him a second chance, and it was the same way the second time. So, yeah, I'm gonna give it to him.
And there always is that one, and
I'm
everyone.
sorry.
But no, that
I know
is your
people are
opinion.
gonna dagger me, but it's like that he just wasn't for me.
And that's the cool thing about it. Everyone has their different view to it for it. And you've gone to several like meet and greets and fan
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
over the years.
Yep.
Who was some of the nicest people and like most approachable?
Well, okay. So first off, my thing with the meet and greets are that if you are going to offer a meet and greet, then you should always be kind to your fans. You should be in a good mood. You should be, hey, nice to meet you. Good to see you. Thank you for coming. So they're not always that way,
That's true.
and I guess they think that your little, hey, and we get a quick pick and here's your bag of goodies and get on out of my way is the way of it. So I don't care for that. Well, we met Kiss. That was amazing. I got to hug Paul Stanley, but that was just like a meat locker, get them in, get them out. But they weren't rude. They just had so many that they sold. Actually, my favorites have been Alter Bridge and Miles Kennedy because they keep it small and they take their time, and you really do. And it's still distance, so I don't like that. You don't get hands-on, but they're right there at you. Like, they're up on the stage, you're standing right at the stage. So, I mean, you still get that, hey, and you get to interact with them, and all those guys are just great guys, down to earth. Actual ones where I've got to meet them and hug them, those are amazing, where you actually get to look them in the eye and hug them and all that. I mean, I've not had a bad experience, but you definitely have the ones that are more warm and fuzzy versus the ones that aren't. I mean, I met Jerry Cantrell earlier this year, and I was nervous, thought I was going to throw up, and I had an Eddie Van Halen shirt on. And when I walked up, Jerry's not warm and fuzzy, but when you walked up, I mean, he was like, hey, thanks for coming kind of thing. And then he looked at me and I was like, oh my gosh, what are you looking at? And he goes, who's on your shirt? Because it was kind of, we're
Tucked
kind
a
of
little bit
standing up
down.
straight.
Yeah.
And so I stood up straight and I pulled it down and I said, oh, it's EVH. And he was like, who? And I said, EVH. And he goes, oh, my friend EVH. And it was like, then he totally became warm and fuzzy. And I think a lot of people think that if they wear a certain band's shirt to see them or to meet them, that it's going to make them be like, oh, you're my fan. And it's like, of course you are their fan. You paid for the
You
meet
paid to
and
be
greet.
there. Yeah.
So of course you're going to. So I've gotten into this thing since EVH passed away. I always wear an EVH shirt to every concert because he's my man. I figure everybody else loves him. I'm putting it out there. And I have found that people are always like, Miles Kennedy's like, oh, Eddie, and Jerry, it warmed him up. And I mean, that's not the reason why I do it, but it just makes me like them more to know that they cared about
They
him.
connect. Yeah. That connectability.
So, yeah, I'm a fan of the meet and greets because, you pay that little extra, but you're meeting them if it's somebody that means something to you. And then also, you usually get in the venue early so you
That's
can get
true.
your spot on the rail.
You're
And
definitely a
it's
rail
worth
girl.
it. Yeah,
You're a rail girl. And that's
it's worth it.
now whenever you're at the concert for someone like Alice Cooper does, it's a stage show.
Oh,
Like
God.
whenever it comes in there, are you a fan of the pyrotechnicians kind of stuff that goes into being that close to the stage? Do you think it helps or do you think it takes away from the concert? Is it important to have those different types of bands? What's your opinion on that?
Oh, I like a show. It's a good show. Alice is one of the best. Love him.
I am so sad that I've never seen him, but
You have to.
I've seen all the different live videos that they've kind of done in specials, and I'm like, that looks amazing.
He is so good. It's the show and the beheading and all that dancing with the dead doll. And I mean, yeah. And I love the fact that his wife is in his band and
Yes.
his daughter is in his band. I mean, they do the stage show. So I guess you say band, but they don't play instruments. I love that. He's great. I love all that. And Kiss, back to that. I love all that blood spitting and firing and all that because that's what you're going for. You're going for a show. But then again, I like the ones that just do their own thing and maybe have some screens and show you like some old videos or pictures. I like that.
And there's always a rhyme or reason for doing something.
Sure.
And being on the rail, sometimes that could be getting the pyro. It's like, oh man, now my like ears are deaf for the rest of the kind of show.
I'm trying to think about being on the rail and who did anything like that, honestly, because at Alice, I've always been in a seat a few rows back, so I get to see everything. Kiss, I've been on the floor, but you're further back. They don't have rail. They never let anybody up at the stage. So I'm thinking, sometimes you can be all the way back and feel that fire coming up like at Motley Crue or whatever. And it's like, man, I feel that. And I'm like 20 rows back. I can't
Imagine what it feels like. Yeah.
Right.
On the stage.
Exactly. So, yeah.
Do you have any upcoming shows that you're getting ready to kind of go into? Because you always have like months out list of that. And I love that.
Well, as of this taping and not as of when it's actually going to air, my next one is Foo Fighters in Alabama.
Oh, you're going to drive down?
Yep. And that's going to be the first time I'm seeing them just as the Foo Fighters without Taylor. I went to Taylor's tribute show in LA last September. So, I got the other guys and they did some Foo Fighter songs, but they mostly did all the stuff that Taylor liked and had people there. So this will be my first Foo Fighters show.
Was that the one that his son came up and played too? Or is that the one that he played in England?
Shane was at both.
Yeah, he was at both?
Yeah.
That was intense seeing
He's
those
amazing.
videos.
Yeah. But Josh was there, who's now with the Foos.
Yep.
Rufus was there, who's the Darkness's drummer, but then also is Roger Taylor's son, who looks like
Splitting
Taylor.
image. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like kind of freaky, right? So yeah, that one's coming up. That's my next one. It's Friday. So yeah. Looking forward to it. It's going to be emotional, but it'll be fun.
But that's sometimes the healing comes from those kind of moments like that. If you could reunite a band, all original lineup, or you can pick a different lineup for it, what band would you reunite? It could just be for one show that you're going to get to attend to.
Van Halen. But I want it to be the super group Van Halen that they talked about they were going to do, but EVH got sick and passed on, that had all members,
everybody?
DLR had Sammy, and they were even going to get Gary from the one album that he sang, which Gary Sharon, by the way, is very underrated, and Extreme is very underrated. Love them. But it would have had, I want Wolfie there, I want Mikey there, just all Van Halen, that super group. If that could have happened, that I would have been the happiest person alive. That would have been so good.
If you could attend any venue in the world, because there's so many music venues out there, where would it be and why?
Royal Albert Hall. And that is John Lennon's fault because of that song where how many holes does it take to fill Albert Hall? I always wanted to go there from that song. And then my girlfriend got to go to the Jeff Beck tribute show, and they did the tour the day before of just the venue, and went, and she posted so many pictures. It's gorgeous. And it's just like historic, and everybody, Eric Clapton holds the record for playing the most there. And Cornell, he played there, and actually a guy came over for the Cornell tribute show that I met, and he had that tattooed on his arm, the Royal Albert Hall in the background and Cornell's face.
Wow.
Because he went and saw him. Royal Albert Hall, that's where I want to go.
And you've met some really interesting, amazing people throughout going to your concerts. And you meet up people and travel with some of them.
Yeah.
Don't you from time to time that you meet up?
Foo people, yeah.
Yep. And that's another thing that I like about the followings of groups, that you can find people that you connect with, and they bring different stories. They bring different experiences to it. And it's like, hey, I'm gonna go to the show. Are you going to the show? Okay, cool. Let's meet up and have a beer. Or hey, let's meet up and we can split a hotel room, save a little bit of money or something.
That's happened. I have my one girl, Angela, that I've been friends with since 2015 because of the Foo Fighters, and we meet up. We're gonna see each other Friday in Alabama, but we sleep together. We did in LA for the Taylor. We share, and we always sleep together because we know we like each other. And we did it in Tennessee for Foo Fighters, in Nashville. Yeah.
Didn't you do the one here in Atlanta before the Super Bowl show?
That was my girlfriend, Mindy, that you met from Chicago. Exactly. Yes. Oh, that show was so good.
That was a good one. I enjoyed that.
That was a great one.
I think that was number 3 that I saw them on that one. That was really cool.
That was the last one with Taylor for us.
Yep,
yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And thank you for that. Like, Dakota gave me that ticket. It's like, oh, we have an extra one. I'm like, okay, what do I owe you? Like, this is amazing, because we got in early too.
Yes.
And everything. It was so
that
good.
fan club tickets.
Yep.
Yes.
It was.
So good. So good.
Now let's start to kind of like wind down as we're going through kind of the episode here, because if I like to give people that, I don't like to take up too much of a person's time, because an hour hour to like hour and a half is that sweet kind of spot for me.
Okay.
Now, is there things that I didn't cover that like, hey, Cade, we got to talk about this real quick. That's like, you overlook this.
Oh, I don't think you overlooked anything. You know, I could talk about music all day, every day. We've done good. I would like to tell a little story, and it's not about me, it's about my mom.
Do it.
Can I tell this?
Yeah, totally.
So the reason why I'm the way I am is because of her. And this is a great story. She loves the Bee Gees, which I love the Bee Gees. Dak loves the Bee Gees, so that just proves when you're raised on something, it carries down. And she saw them in Atlanta back in the day. They came, and she met some guys from the band, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we'll introduce you to the Bee Gees." And my mom got on the tour bus with these horn players and these
Wow.
secondary players from the Bee Gees band back in the day. And my aunt and uncle that she went to the concert with had to get in the car and follow her all the way to Alabama to get her off. When they stopped at a truck stop, they were like, "Get off the bus. You have kids. You're not going on tour with the Bee Gees." And I love that
That is
story.
amazing.
So I'm like, the apple didn't fall far from the tree, because if you don't think I'd get on somebody's tour bus and go with them, I would in a heartbeat.
That is, I never knew that. Like, that is
Yes.
so cool.
And
to
you know
hear.
Mom, and you know how
Oh, yeah.
crazy she is.
She is a bundle of joy. And when she gets on the topic, like you do as well, whenever you find a passion, you're just like, you light up, like just light up. And it's so fun. That's why I like these conversations of getting to see someone like that joy, and sitting down like one-on-one like this, you really get to like feel that kind
Yeah.
of like
That's
aura
true.
in that kind of range. Of some people like, oh, aura, what? But I'm like, yeah, you feel that aura, you feel that presence.
Well, you
kind of in
know,
there.
they love it or really feel that way because, like you say, they're talking and they're looking off and their eyes are glistening or they're grinning ear to ear, and you're like, okay, she's in the moment.
Yep, she's there. You've hit the sweet spot. You've hit that nice little
It's
sweet
true.
spot. Now, is there any last minute words of wisdom? It could be anything. It doesn't have to connect to music, that you would just like to share with the world, kind of put out there.
Always buy the ticket. If you want to go to something, I say do it. Don't ever say, "I'll see them next time they come around," because there are people you won't. I'm speaking from experience. So, you know, never got to see Scott Weiland live, and they came to town several times,
Yeah.
you know, and I love STP. So it
He
was like,
carries
you
a
know,
stage.
I never got to see Chester, you know, and I love Lincoln Park. So it was like, you never know when something's going to happen. It's like, I got to see Audio Slave, and I didn't even want to go. Something was going on that night. Me and my girlfriend were supposed to go. And even though it was Cornell, I wasn't as much into the whole rage side of it. And she was like, "No, Tammy, you got to go." And I was like, "All right." I said, "You're driving, you know, and all this." And I was up there throwing my arms, singing all those rage songs. And now he's gone, you
Yeah.
know, and it's like, what if I hadn't, and not that many people got to see Audio Slave live. I was lucky
True.
enough to see him with them, with Soundgarden and solo. So, you know, always buy the ticket. If you don't wait, because you're never guaranteed. And me and my mom went to the last Neil Diamond show before
The diagnosis.
yes,
Yeah.
before his Parkinson's diagnosis. He canceled that tour, and we bought those tickets the day before. We were down to the wire.
Oh my gosh.
And we went, and we had a ball, and he was amazing. And then it wasn't even like, I don't even think it was a month later, he canceled his tour. And it was like, wow.
Great words of wisdom
Just
there.
always go. Buy
Like-
your ticket. Do it.
Yeah, I remember seeing the last tour that Robin Williams did when he was doing a sit down talk with people. Literally less than a year or two later, it was like, he's gone.
Yeah.
And I go, man, I'm glad I went and got to see that, because Robin Williams is one of my favorite comedians of all time.
Huh.
And same with, I went and saw Eddie Izzard perform at another great comedian at the Fox. And I was thinking, oh, I'm not going to go see this. I'm not going to go do it. But it turns out that was one of his last times of performing on a tour in the United States, because he became a politician that he put in over in the UK. And it's like, wait a second, like, you never, as you said, you never know.
Yeah.
You never can tell. And a band could break up tomorrow. You never know when someone's going to kind of get into a fight and just cancel it all up.
Exactly.
So, or a band member's going to pass away, and it's just not the same kind of, because you have that connection
Right.
with that person.
Yeah.
And that's always challenging. Tammy, thank you for this like lovely gift that you have given me today of sitting and just having this lovely conversation.
No, it's been so fun.
Yeah.
So
That's the
fun.
thing.
I loved
Yeah.
it. You're easy to talk to. I've always loved you. So this was good. I'm sorry it took us so long, but at least we finally nailed it down.
But it happened. That's the
Right.
key thing at the end of the day. But it happened.
There you go.
So as the listeners know, as we come kind of towards the end here, if you want to reach out to me and I can connect you with Tammy, if we'll filter through things because I just want to respect her peace, you can reach to me through Facebook. You can reach through Twitter. It's Learning from Friends Podcast. You can email me at Cade, which is spelled CADE, at learningfromfriends.com. I have a Patreon page if you'd like to donate. Feel free, $1, $10, $100, whatever you're feeling comfortable with on that. But if you have just a general question, reach out. If you're curious about a previous guest or any of the guests that I've had, if this is your first time listening to the podcast, go back and listen to other ones. You may find something that may be interest to you, may not find any at all, but that's the cool thing of learning from friends. You never know what kind of conversation you should have or could have. So sit down, talk to somebody. It may be an old friend. It may be someone that you just met last week. It could be a family member. You never know the stories and things that can unfold. So just give someone your full attention. Give someone your time, because that's the thing that you cannot get back, is the gift of your time. It's limited. So listeners, my name is Kate Curtis, your tour guide in this lovely adventure that I call Learning from Friends. And most of all, don't forget to let your curiosity fly high.